Good morning. Welcome back to Gardening with Liz. Today I'm here at the Arroyo High School Farm Lab in El Monte, where I would like to show you some effects of how climate change is changing our gardening practices. So, as we know, climate change is making the weather more unpredictable. So in some places it will be hotter and drier, some places it will rain heavier and harder more infrequently, which may cause flooding. So now farmers and agriculturalists all over the world are trying to figure out what they can do to help predict these effects and how they can still effectively grow their gardens and what they're going to have to change in order to keep up with the changing climate. So a good example I can tell you about is my dear friend Pablo Tamashiro, who runs Cyber Yogurt in El Monte, recently received a huge shipment of dragon fruit. And what the farmer who grew the dragon fruits told him was that this year the summer was so hot and dry, it caused all the fruits to produce early and also to be smaller and to dry out more quickly. So basically, farmers all over the country and the world are losing their crops because they're producing faster or in a way that they haven't been able to predict. So there are also ways that might affect your garden at home or your urban farm. One thing I've heard from a lot of people is that the heat has caused all of the pollen on their plants to evaporate. So let's say you have a tomato plant and it's covered in flowers, so you're really excited. It's about to produce tomatoes. But what happens is the flowers dry up and fall off. That's caused by the heat. Basically, the air is so dry that the pollen literally evaporates, and then the plant can't get pollinated, won't produce any fruits, and the flowers will just fall off. So your plant will still produce more flowers, you just need to give it a minute. But something you can do to help it along would be to mist it with a spray bottle, or try covering it with some sort of shade cloth for part of the day. So maybe in the hottest part of the day between like 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. you want to give it a little shade. So here's an example of my pepper plants, which I covered up over the last couple days. We've had a couple 103-degree days here in El Monte, a few days in a row. So I covered my plant with a tarp to shade them out for the hottest part of the day. But if you look closely here, you can see that even the areas where the plant has been exposed to the sun, the leaves and the peppers are sunburned. So it caused the leaves to essentially turn brown and shrivel up. So the plant will still be fine, it's just those leaves will fall off and be lost. And the fruits that get sunburned are still edible, but they'll go rotten more quickly. So just be aware of that, and you'll also need to be aware of the fact that we can't seed our winter veggies quite yet. So if you start seeding like your winter greens like kale and spinach, what'll happen is they'll bolt immediately. So bolting is when they produce a flower and that releases a toxin into the plant, which makes it not taste very good. It has a bitter flavor to it. So it's going to make our winter growing season a little bit shorter, and then we just have to understand how these longer, hotter, drier summers are going to affect our gardening practices. So if you have more questions, please reach out to me through social media or email. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions about gardening and climate change. Thanks so much. I'll see you next week.